Okay, welcome to Inside the Game with coaches Jim Evans and John Blomstrann. We have a special guest tonight, Austin Daniels. We're very happy to have Austin as our first ever guest.
Thanks, Jim and John. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to give a quick bio of Austin. I was going over it today. It's pretty amazing. He started off coaching at E.O. Smith with Lenny Sinteris, the E.O. Smith girls. And when Lenny went to UConn, Austin took the head job. And if I'm not mistaken, he had over 100 wins under his belt before he had his first loss, something like that. Crazy. And then he went to Colorado College as the assistant for Dan Piblovich and helped them go to the Final Four, Division I, which led him back to his hometown of Hartford, where he took the University of Hartford women to the Final Four and was named National Coach of the Year. Lucky for me, he also got me the men's soccer job at University of Hartford while he was there. He then moved on to University of Colorado, where he started the women's program there in the Big 12. And from there, went to into club soccer, coached director of coaching for Northern Kentucky United, then came back home to be the director of coaching for the Connecticut Soccer Association, Connecticut Youth Soccer Association. From there, he went to Arizona to be the director of coaching for the state of Arizona. And then his most recent job was technical advisor to U.S. Soccer. Like a lot of us, COVID kind of put a cramp on that one, and U.S. Soccer made some furloughs, and so he's in that situation now. By the way, when Austin was at coaching the Connecticut Youth Soccer, director of coaching, he also coached the New England Mutiny women's side, a summer pro-am team. And of course, they went to the Final Four nationally because that's what he does. And when he was in Arizona, he was the assistant coach for Phoenix Rising in the USL. He actually was Didier Drogba's coach. So that's a brief history of Austin. As you can see, incredibly successful coach. And what we'd like to do now is John might have something to add, because they coached. We were all good friends. We did camps together and played together. And John coached at Smith, I think, at the same time Austin did briefly.
Yeah, correct.
Yep, that's right.
I wouldn't have been there without John. John kind of pushed me forward in that role, as well as Lenny. But John was the catalyst.
Yeah. But I think, Austin, you were coaching at E.O. Smith before I got there, right? Because 1980 was my first fall.
Yeah, it was your first fall. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, both of you guys obviously coached me at different times.
Yeah.
My first coaching job was Westledge United in Simsbury, Keith Johnson's club. And Austin was a player on the team. I'm not sure how old you were, Austin, 16 or 17 maybe.
17 or 18, yeah.
18, and I was 21 or 22. And right away I could see this guy really loves the game. This guy has a great mind for the game. And so we became friends right away because we were both kind of fanatics.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I coached Austin on UConn's varsity, probably the fall of '78, right, Austin?
Correct.
So,
right.
Yeah.
And then I coached Austin. My playing career ended kind of short because of my knees, and Austin became the best defender in the Connecticut Soccer League. And I coached him on the Hartford Portuguese, and we had this understanding with the management. There weren't a lot of good Portuguese players left anymore, young ones. And so I had to start these two Portuguese kids that really weren't up to the task. So I had one of them play midfield in front of Austin. Austin played right back. So he had 2-on-1s against him the whole game. And I remember one game we were playing Waterbury Ports, and I was yelling at him, and he's going, "I got two guys." I said, "Deal with it. Shut up." And that's how it was back then. And we were fine. We were fine afterwards.
And nowadays, I'd probably run off the team, but.
Okay, so Austin, what I was hoping that we could do is you could expound on any of those experiences that you've had. I definitely want to hear what your role was as technical advisor to U.S. Soccer. That sounds really interesting.
Okay, so yeah, you can start with that. Was hired as technical advisor. They ended up changing the title to club development manager. So when I first started, it was a combination of scouting for the youth national team. I actually worked with the U16 national team at the Summit camp, and we also would support clubs, which were in the developmental academy. So we'd work together with them on whether it was curriculum, coaching, just being a liaison for having a regional person to work with the clubs with U.S. Soccer. And I had the Northwest region, which was Northern California, Oregon, Washington, and so that's where my academy clubs were. And then right at the end there, we also were working with the state associations on coaching education and curriculum and things of that nature. So it was a wide-ranging, varied job, and it's too bad right now that with COVID that we had to stop it. But I do think the clubs appreciated the support, and the guidelines, and the developmental academy was very successful on the boys' side, as you could see with a number of players who were playing in MLS and playing in Europe and being very successful.
I have a question for you, and it might not be that easy to answer, but I think a lot of our guests would enjoy at least trying to answer this. I'm reading a comment from Dave Latourette. There is zero soccer knowledge in this group of three legends. Thanks, Dave.
Dave was my assistant at University of Hartford for a couple of years.
He was a great goalkeeper coach. He was the goalkeeper coach for me when I first got there, and he really made my introduction a lot easier than it would have been if he wasn't there. So Austin, my question was, what's the difference between a player who makes it at that level and a player who doesn't?
It's really a commitment to excellence. I would say, a lot of, sometimes they call them fake elite players, and they're on what they'll call premier clubs or whatever, and they'll go to the 2 practices a week or 3 practices a week and play a game on a weekend and call it a day. Well, the players who make it do a lot of work on their own, whether it's on the nutritional side off the field, whether it's the physical side off the field, whether it's working on their technique, and they really work at it. And they don't just rely on their current coach at the time. They put effort in themselves. So those players who really do make it, like the Gio Reynas of the world or Tyler Adams, they're the ones who put that extra work in.
Yeah.
And it's not work to them. It's what they enjoy to do. That's what they enjoy doing. So that love of the game and putting that extra time in, it really makes a difference between that and somebody who complains because they didn't make it but didn't really put in the effort.
That's interesting. I read a book by Billy Gazonis. He played at Hartwick when we were at UConn, and great player. He was Herman Trophy winner, national champion, 5'3" guy from Trenton. And he wrote this book, and I read it this summer. And he trained 8 hours a day every day in the summer when he was in college.
Well, yeah, I mean, that kind of commitment is what those top players have. And
yeah.
you know, obviously they have certain natural ability, but that gets you only so far. And it's that extra effort and work and dedication that really gets you over the top.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the interesting thing, he sounded like he had an older sort of mentor coach who was almost like his personal coach in the summertime.
Yeah.
From I guess club coaching at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it always helps. I mean, trying to put yourself either with having a mentor or being in the right environment, an environment that looks after you as the player and not so much, oh, I'm going to this environment or this club because they win X amount of games, this, that, and the other thing. The top clubs are the ones that look after the individual first and then the team second. You know, one of my mentors, besides you two, Stan Nixon, who used to work for Middlesbrough and Newcastle United before that. And I know that their coaches were graded on how many of their players made it to the next level, not on how many games they won, but if player playing U16 was able to make it to U17, player who's at U13, how many can make it to U14? So that's what they were graded on. How could they keep improving the players?
Yeah, that's something that we could really learn from in this country. We're so results oriented. When I came down, Austin had me come down and help him with the Arizona ODP with the thought of maybe me coming down to work for him. And when it was only 111 degrees that day, I realized that wasn't going to happen because I think I was weeping while I was evaluating the players. But Austin shared something with me. Tell us about the promotion relegation situation in Arizona back then.
Well, when I first got there, that was 2010. They had promotion and relegation starting at U7. So it took me a couple of years to get changed, but luckily that's not the case anymore.
Wow, that's a little too much pressure, I think. But
yeah, I'd say.
Yeah. Wow. So I think you answered the question that I was going to ask. What advice would you give to a young player who wants to get better? And that's to practice on their own and besides all the stuff that they do. What advice would you give to a young coach who wants to excel at the level they're at, or perhaps move up a level or two themselves?
Constantly self-educate yourself, as well as try and find a mentor, try and see numerous different ways people do things. I see too many coaches here where they'll go, well, this is how I did it growing up, or this is how so-and-so did it. And they've got one thing or the comment of, I've always done it this way. Yeah. So those are detriments. You always have to want to stay as educated as possible. Doesn't mean that anything new is correct, but you want to have an open mind to be able to say, well, I like that new thing, or I don't like it. But if you don't have knowledge of what's coming down the pike and how players learn, how different ways to teach, then I don't think you can ever be fully successful.
Thanks, Austin. I want to share that Austin has turned me on to at least 20, maybe 30 excellent books that I've read on his recommendation. And a lot of times he's lent me the books, and my apologies for not getting them all back to you. But
oh well, that happens.
When I lend someone a book, I don't expect it back anymore, so I just gift it to them. But it's not just soccer books that Austin told me about. One of the books that I read that he told me about was called "Leaders Eat Last" by Simon. Is it Sinek?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just a great book about leadership and about how humble good leaders are. They're not cocky. I'm running the show and it's my way or the highway. The good leaders are not like that. And this book really told that story well, and lots of other books too, Good to Great, and the one of the Cruyff books, which he's my favorite, and Ajax is my favorite, and so that's been our relationship has changed over the years. From I was Austin's coach, and then we were the same at Hartford, and he just took off past me, and I learned so much from him now, and I'm fine with guys that I helped start that passed me by. That's I think how it's supposed to be. So
I think you're over generous on that. I mean, I think one of the benefits of all of our friendship and our group that we grew up playing with and being around coaching wise is we learn from each other.
Yeah.
And I think that, like I said, that's the key. Where I always tell people when I'm around coaching education, the minute I say I know it all, fire me from whatever job I'm in or get me out of soccer. Because we're always constantly learning and constantly trying to, improve ourselves, irrespective of how long we've been in it or how old we are.
Yeah, I'm an assistant coach this year for the first time in 41 years or so, and it's still fun just watching other head coaches, even how they warm up for a game. I've always appreciated that. I just watched Mark Landers and his warm-ups at Glastonbury. And the other thing about being humble, I think you guys said, I thought a good example this summer was, or maybe it was, I'm losing track of time, might have been 2 summers ago, was Jill Ellis and the U.S. national team. When they won, she seemed like she had a great affect, and it seemed like she really had all the players' support as a head coach.
No, yeah, obviously, yeah, she did a great job, and I guess you have to. If you win 2 World Cups, you're pretty good, and an Olympic gold medal. So
yeah,
she's been fantastic.
And Jim, you had a connection in her family, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I was the assistant coach at George Mason University, the men, from 1982 to 84. And her dad, John Ellis, was the coach in that area. He had just come from England, and he was the coach of the British Royal Navy team. And they came every year and played the 5 universities around DC. And somebody saw him, and he was getting ready to retire from the Navy. And Annandale Boys Club had a good soccer program, and they brought him in to be their U19 coach, and he won the McGuire Cup his first year, the national championship. And the chairman of this is youth soccer at its worst. The chairman of the club fired him because he was jealous because he got too much credit, and he tried to get him deported.
Oh,
and John got a job with Braddock Road Soccer Club, and he was the coach of the Braddock Road Blue Jays. And that's when I met him. And I was recruiting, and I watched. It was a Sunday morning, and I watched his team play. There was nobody there, just the players and me. And the stuff he was saying to the players was incredible to me. And he was teaching D courses, and he put me on his staff, and I got to go and work for him for a couple of years. And I used to see him take a bunch of 12-year-old boys in a gym teaching a D course, and in 20 minutes he'd have them playing great football. It was amazing. And I met Jill then. She was in high school. She was just getting ready to go to William and Mary and play for John Daly.
Right.
And she was a great player, and really good people, really good. It's a small world, football, if you've been in it long enough, you seems like you know somebody somewhere, and they know you, and that's kind of how it goes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I had another question or two. I know what it was. How did you find the situation, I know you weren't the head coach for Phoenix Rising. How was it with Drogba in the team, being a world star in the team with a lot of guys just starting out in their pro career? How did that work out? Was he mentoring them, or was he just, what was the situation like?
Didier was fantastic with the group. Obviously he come from such a high level, and then you're in USL, and he looked after the players. He looked after himself. He was very mentoring, and he also led by example. I mean, to see him talk about working on things after training for 20 minutes to a half hour, he'd sit there and work on free kicks on his own. And, the players see that as an example. And and obviously when you play at that level and the things he's done, he's got a certain presence about him. So people are going to follow that. And his presence was very positive, absolutely positive.
Well, I was lucky enough just to be a fly on the wall at one training session when you had me down there.
Right.
And the thing that amazed me was the group started out with like 4-on-1 rondos. And when he was in the middle, he was flying around like a kid. And so how could the others not do that?
Exactly.
I mean, it was amazing. I was really surprised that he was doing that.
No, he was the perfect role model. It was a great opportunity for myself, but really for the players. I mean, to say I coached him would be a little bit of a stretch. I mean, he knew exactly what he needed and wanted, and got it done.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap it up. I've asked the questions I wanted to ask Austin, and I can't tell you how many hours the three of us have sat around talking football, usually with a few cold beverages between us. And the great thing about it is that one of the things I love about Austin, very, very opinionated. We can argue, we yell, we this and that, and then afterwards we're still buddies, I think that's a really good thing, and I think that's something that in our world today we need a little more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's been we've had great times together and learned from each other, and the sport of soccer has brought us all together, and our friendship has kept us together.
Yeah. And we have a wider circle of friends than these three. I'm sure a few of them might be watching,
I want to do a show where we have all the cranky old men on.
Yeah, right. That would be fun.
The cranky old men, if you don't know, you wouldn't know. It's a Zoom meeting we have every Friday, and there's about anywhere from 5 to 12 people, and it's all the old boys. And boy, does it get going, and so that might, I don't know, people might tune that off pretty quick, actually, if we do that.
But there's pretty good soccer knowledge in that group too, so it's.
Oh God, yeah, oh yeah. Okay, well, thanks again, Austin, for joining us, and we really appreciate it. And we're gonna turn it off now. So good luck with everything, and. I know once this COVID thing ends, I can't wait to see where you are after that. You have so much to offer the game. And we shared that we're both getting old. We're all getting a little old now. And sometimes at our age, we have great resumes, but sometimes people don't want to hire a guy our age. And I'll tell you what, that's a big mistake because we've garnished all this knowledge, and we're a little bit wiser than we used to be. Our behavior is a little better, So, hopefully we'll see Austin with an MLS team or a women's, pro team or somewhere like that. That'd be great.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, John.
All right.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.